What say, is the defendant at the bar not guilty or guilty?
Not guilty.
Karen Reed found not guilty just hours ago of second-degree murder. This is the result of her retrial in Boston. This case has caught national attention. This is the crowd outside. She was accused of being drunk when she hit and killed her boyfriend, a Boston police officer, and left him to die in the snow. She was found guilty of drunk driving. A crowd of her supporters, though, erupted in cheers over this verdict when it was read. The jury had deliberated for roughly 21 hours over 4 days. For more on this retrial, we're bringing in our legal expert, Whitney Traylor, to kind of get a broader perspective of retrials.
Yeah.
And when this decision is made, what goes into it, and how much it costs. First of all, I guess, you know, if you're the prosecutor, you're saying, I want to go again. Right. But you also know you face some new hurdles.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many factors that go into a retrial, and you mentioned it earlier, cost is certainly one of them. The possibility of a successful prosecution is another one, the emotional and financial toll. And then I think the prosecutors also have to take into consideration the public aspect. And if the public, if they went through and had 2 hung juries and then tried her again, it starts to bring into question the jury system. And so it does create doubt, you know, in that regard. But this was a very expensive, highly publicized trial. There were a lot of the mistrial in the first time last year, and now there was a question if there was going to be a mistrial here because the jury was bringing all these questions back to the judge, and the judge didn't answer some of them, and others she answered. So it was a question. But I drove over here about an hour ago, and as of the time I came, there was no verdict. So this must have just came down.
Yeah, it did.
And what about between the trials, right? Because the defense this time around changed their defense.
Yeah.
Is that something that's normal? Yeah. And what is the strategy behind that?
Well, that can be normal, and the question is, in a retrial, who benefits, the prosecution or the defense? And it really depends. I mean, in a lot of ways, both sides are benefiting because they saw what worked, what didn't work, what was a strong witness and what wasn't, and so those kind of factors go into it. And so in this case, they made the decision to do the second trial. If it was a hung jury this time, I don't know if they would have done it because it was so expensive, and everybody's going to say, well, did you have the evidence? Because you weren't able to solidify a conviction in 2 different trials.
So, yeah, you're right. When you talk about a first trial, it's like you put all your cards out there. So they kind of know what everybody, what hand they're playing with.
Yeah.
Although I think she testified in the first one and she did not in this one. So there's a lot of different strategies. Plus, there was a whole documentary about this case, a bunch of datelines for those that watched it. And I know that the jury system works, but at the same time, it becomes such a big story that is like in the back of your head.
Well, that's a major issue, and that's why there's so much emphasis on getting an unbiased jury. And so when you have these very popular cases, and I'm thinking about Christian Glass in that small community, and everybody heard about it, can you find, so the question isn't, hey, can you find jurors that don't know anything about this case? The question is, can the jurors, whether they've heard something or not, disregard everything they've heard and only pay attention to the evidence? And that's really difficult. You know, we're human. And you know, that's why you get these admonitions when you're on a jury, not to go do any investigation, not to talk to anybody. Sometimes there's these sequestration orders where the jury is kept apart. And so that, you know, that is an issue. I do believe in the jury system. As I've mentioned before, we're one of the few countries in the world with a jury system. And I do think it works, but of course, it's a human system. So there's going to be flaws, and there's going to be issues. And this really highlights, I think, the skill of the lawyers. Like, really, I would put a lot of emphasis on the lawyers. I do think the level of competence of your lawyer is going to reflect in the outcome in a lot of times.
I think clearly in this. I mean, before we let you go, we have about 30 seconds left. What do you think of the not guilty verdict? What was your reaction to that?
Well, what I just found out about 10 seconds ago, I wasn't necessarily surprised. And the reason is, there was, the prosecution has a high burden. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's a very high burden. On a civil trial, it's a preponderance of the evidence. So it's just a little bit more that the plaintiff has to prove the case. But here, there were so many weird things about this. It seemed like a good old boys club. The lead investigator was fired because of some issues. They scooped up some of the bloody snow in these Dixie Red cups. I mean, there was just a number of issues that I think really made it easy for the defense to cast that doubt, and they certainly did. And the jury came back and had a number of questions. They had a question about a split verdict, so they were talking about, can we come back guilty on these and not guilty on these? And in Massachusetts, you can, but the judge said, hey, those are theoretical questions. I'm not going to answer it, because she didn't want to influence the jury. So no, I'm not surprised at this, but it is a very kind of bizarre case, and there's a lot of nuance to it. So
Just takes one juror. Got to win one over, right?
yeah, that's right. It's got to be a unanimous verdict.
Okay, Whitney, that's super interesting.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be a new documentary coming out. We can catch up.
I'll make sure I watch
You know it.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.